I saw this post on LinkedIn which went semi-viral, and basically he was saying no one should be pitching on LinkedIn because it seems spammy and it's just not what you do. And I'll just throw the image up here. While I understand his intent with the post itself, I'm going to be explaining to you why that's terrible advice for you if you're actually wanting to start to generate more leads on a consistent basis and grow your business. The reason being is because when you actually do it right, it doesn't actually feel like a pitch. And I actually shared a response and basically said, you're getting pitched every single day. When you go on Instagram on your phone, when you go on Facebook, when you're on TikTok, if you're on YouTube, if you see a billboard, you are essentially getting pitched by advertisers who want your money essentially. So there's just different ways to go about it. When we're actually talking about LinkedIn and you're actually speaking to people, it annoys people when you pitch them straight away. But if you do it right, which is what I'm going to explain to you in this video with this simple 3-step process on how to actually go and pitch people without it looking like a pitch, that is when you're going to start generating high quality leads for your business. Before we get into it, I just wanted to explain who I am. So I essentially help small to medium sized business owners generate leads on LinkedIn. We use a little bit of email and we don't run paid ads and we don't do regular posting on the platform to actually go and get leads. 90% of it is all doing cold outreach to cold prospects. And that 3-step process, which I'm going to explain, is I'm going to go through one, why people actually sound like they're pitching all the time to people. Number 2 is the mindset shift you need to be able to have in order for you to go and reach out to people and actually have good conversations and start generating meetings. Number 3 is my proven message structure in terms of what is actually going to get you replies, bookings, and sales meetings. So step number 1 is essentially not sounding like a robot. And a lot of people now are using ChatGPT to just copy and paste a message and they're sending it out to people and they're getting no responses and they're wondering why. But the thing is, when you're sending out messages on LinkedIn and it's a big paragraph like this and you're addressing it to, hey John, and then you've got 3 different paragraphs or even a couple of sentences, and then you're actually signing it off and saying, thanks Ben or thanks John, then as soon as someone sees that, they are probably not going to read it. I personally don't want to read a big paragraph where someone's just sent me a message and it's the first time that I've even seen their name. And I'm presuming that you're the same. So if you're going to do that to people and expect a response, you're not going to get anywhere. And also, when it comes to sounding like a robot, if you go out there with a pitch in that first message, it's just an instant turn off. You could have the best offer in the world, you could have the best message in the world, but if you say that in the first message that you actually send to someone, you're just not going to get a response, or 1% of the time you may get a response and it may work very well, but people really do not like to respond to that. People don't like getting sold to, they like purchasing. So now we've got that out of the way, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, and it may just be as casual as, hey, great to connect, or great to connect with someone else in my location, or great to connect with someone else in the industry. So you just keep it as that. And then you can always do your follow-up message, which is going to be step 2. Now, step 2 is basically what I like to call just asking the right questions. So all you need to do to actually get that human conversation, forget pitching for now, all we're going to do is ask them a specific question that is A, related to your service, and B, related to their potential pain points that they have. So for me, what I like to ask is, once we've had that initial conversation, we've said great to connect and they've responded, even if they haven't responded, I'll ask them something specific and, give them a compliment of some sort. It doesn't have to be cringy. You could just explain about what their post is and you've just seen it, or you saw them at a networking event, or you can see what their company is doing. You don't want to leave it there. You need to follow up with a question that is A, specific, and the second would be, it needs to draw into their potential pain points. Because if you've understood who your customer is, you should be reaching out to people where you kind of know what their pain points are. So only then, until then, we can start to understand if we're actually going to go and pitch them or not, because we need to understand if they're struggling with what you have to offer. So that's where a lot of people mess up at this stage, because they've had that initial interaction and then they go in for the kill, they go in for the pitch, rather than asking a specific question where you can actually get a good answer and indication to see if they are actually struggling with your solution. So a prime example would be, if I ask someone, are they struggling with leads? And they say, no, we've got so many leads coming in, I don't even know what to do with it. That's when I obviously wouldn't be pitching them at that point, because they don't need what I have to offer. It sounds pretty simple, but you don't need to be going after everyone. You're just going to be wasting your time. You may as well move on to the next prospect. But on the other hand, if they are struggling with lead generation, in my example, then that's when we can start having that human conversation and actually understanding, okay, maybe I need to ask them a few more questions to see if I can actually help them. So step 3 is where you would potentially go in for the pitch, and you would essentially say, if your sales mechanism is jumping on to have a quick call with them, it could be you're giving out free audits to people to go and understand if they need help with your service. So for example, I could do an audit of their digital marketing or looking at their lead generation funnels, for example. That's where you can actually ask them and say, okay, would you be interested in me actually explaining X, Y, and Z, or would you be interested in me jumping on a call and explaining exactly what I do? Because I work with people in the similar industry to you, and I'd love to share just some case studies and explain how it would work. Then if they say yes, usually what I would do is ask them for 2 times to see when they're available, ideally within the next 24 hours, to say, okay, are you available tomorrow at 2 p.m. or 4 p.m? Don't worry if you think that they might not be available. If they're interested and they're going to book a call, they're going to get back to you with a suitable time for you to actually go and have a call with them. So I'm going to explain in an extremely simple way in terms of how I got a client from someone being complete cold traffic. They had no idea who I was. We had a conversation, I booked a call, we had the sales call, and then he became my client. So this client in particular was a consultant, and he actually goes into large businesses and helps them cut costs essentially. So all I did was connect with him, and I didn't send him a note or anything like that. I just left it blank, because who cares? Someone can literally just go over to your LinkedIn profile and check you out. I don't need to say, would love to connect. So I just left it blank. He accepted my connection request. I sent him a simple message that basically said, hey name, how's 2025 treating you? ? At that point, I had a polite response and said, yeah, it's going great, thank you. How about yourself? And at that point, I said, yeah, it's going great, thank you. Out of curiosity, what type of businesses do you like to work with? That's when he explained who he actually tends to work with. And then the crucial point is the step 2. So what is the question that is going to be more specific around what I had to offer in terms of getting a decent response to understand, okay, is he struggling with lead generation? So I essentially said, how are you generating your leads at the moment? Are you doing it through organic or paid? And that's when it opens up a can of worms, because he essentially told me that he's not generating many leads at the moment and could always do with more leads. So essentially that screams to me, okay, he's potentially struggling with the pain, and the pain is he's got no leads, or he's got very few leads. So that's when we can start following up and having questions. And the simple question in this case was, well, are you looking for more leads? Because I don't know if he's not generating any leads because he doesn't need any leads. He could be too busy. That's not a problem that I can help him with. But what I can help him with is if he does need more leads. So as soon as he said, I'm always looking for more leads, that is my cue to actually explain who I am, who I've worked with, and then try and get him to book on a call with me. So after I've explained who I've worked with before and actually helped them overcome a similar problem to that, that is when I've said, look, there's no sales pitch here. I'm just wondering if you'd like to jump on a quick call just to explain how this could potentially work for you. And then at that point, he said yes. And then I've suggested 2 times. He's got back to me and selected one of them. And then I booked him in and asked him for his phone number and his email. And then he's on my calendar, and we're having a call literally that same day. So just wrapping that up, that's how simple it can be in terms of turning someone who's from cold traffic. You're not pitching them just like that post from LinkedIn that I was speaking about at the start, where people are getting upset because people are posting. They're just not doing it right. The simple way is just to ask the right questions that are related to your service to actually help you understand, can they benefit from your service at this point in time? And if not, that's absolutely no worries, you move on. And the reason why you would move on is because only 3% of the market right now is ready to buy your product or service. No matter who you are, what industry you're in, only 3% of the market is ready to buy. So you can't be expecting reaching out to people and you're getting booked calls, because people don't have the pain. They're not ready for your service yet. So there's nothing to say that you can't revisit those people after you've had that warm conversation. Because now, if you've got everything organized in terms of your messages and your prospects, you can always revisit people who you spoke to about 3 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. You can revisit those people and see if they are struggling with what you had to offer. And it's a lot more of a warm conversation when you're reaching out to someone and say, hey, how's it been? I've not spoke to you in a while. Just wondering how things are going with your business. You see how that's such an easier way to actually get the foot in the door. And to wrap that up, most people just get ignored when they're doing cold outreach. But when you use this method of just asking the right questions, yeah, it's going to take you a little bit more time. Yeah, you've got to be personalized. But when you do ask these right questions, you will start getting a lot more responses, and you'll start having a lot more conversations over time, and you'll start getting a lot more bookings on your calendar. I'll see you in the next one.